did your villain ever meet the hero of the story before their rivalry began? So in childhood, or it's probably a no for most of us.
It's a definite no for me. My characters, my villain and my protagonist meet for the very first time in chapter 2 of the novel. So, but one of the other protagonists met him a little bit sooner than that. Even so, they never met in childhood.
Yeah, mine never met in childhood either. So I think they probably knew of each other, sort of. Jackthus was in government, and the Envoy program that the aliens, that they go and research other planets, it's government funded and government run. And Leonid's one of the premier members of the program, so they probably knew each other, but I don't think they really knew each other before the actual mission was being planned, because they would have been in totally different social circles.
No, with mine, they haven't met before. The main protagonist literally sails there with a fleet of ships to this archipelago of islands, and so he's arriving there and knows nobody there.
Yeah, my characters met at a dance club, dancing, doing Lindy Hop.
That's great.
And so they met, and he keeps trying to ask her out on a date because he doesn't know what she is.
Hate when that happens too. Every time.
And then he finds out later on that she wants to kill him.
Yep, exactly.
Well, my main villains are all mind readers, so they do absorb the childhoods of my heroes. So they know all about their childhoods, but they didn't know them back then, or they would have killed them. So
no childhood rivalries among us.
Yeah, no. Okay, so do you see your villain more as a victim of circumstance, or more as a deficient person or sociopath?
Well, I saw this question on the list, and my immediate reaction was, well, I think my villain is a product of his circumstances, but he's most definitely not a victim. I don't think that anyone who reads him can see him as a victim in any way. He prides himself on being a self-made man, and I don't see how there's any other way to read that. I think he perhaps has I won't call him a sociopath, but he might have some sociopathic tendencies, a little less empathy for others than he might have, and so this kind of enables him to be as manipulative as he needs to be, and to be as hard as he needs to be in certain situations. I mean, a lot of times I think thinks of himself as kind of a harried bureaucrat, with all these bureaucratic problems that he has to deal with. But he really doesn't have a whole lot of empathy for others, and so there's, like I say, some sociopathic tendencies. And he's definitely a product of his time, but like I said, I wouldn't call him a victim, though.
For my main character, she is absolutely a victim of her childhood and of her upbringing and of the school that she went to. And the main character, the hero, is also an absolute victim of his upbringing. And it's one of the major subplots is him fighting against the head prefect of his school. It's such a huge part of the entire story, is the victimization of almost all the children in this novel by their upbringing, and how do you fight that?
Yeah, I like that. I kind of am going for the same thing in my series. I would say all of my Torth characters, they're horrible people and they kill a lot of people, but they are victims of their upbringing for sure. I mean, just the tests they have to go through to get into adulthood are horrible. It's kind of like scarring. So yeah, like I think any one of us would turn into that sort of person if we had to go through that as children.
There's a great discussion here, on the whole. Where's the line between being a victim and being, and making your own choices? I think Matthew kind of hit it on the head that, you can be a product of an environment. Like if you think about, think about like my character Nola. He was, raised, in a, we'll say, an upper class kind of household for his first couple of years, and then he's abandoned by his mother, he's abandoned by his father, he's left to take care of his disabled brother, and he's told to live in a mud hut from the age of 6 on and stuff, and and no one's ever given him anything. Now, is he a victim of what had happened to him, or is he just doing like all these horrible things that he ends up doing over the course of the novel? He's doing with a motive of trying to better everything, like we've been talking about. So I don't know. You tell me. I don't. Is he a victim? He doesn't. He thinks of himself, I suppose, as a bit of a victim. But at the same time, he's making a conscious choice to, kill people and whatever else he's doing.
Yeah, that's a tough one. I mean, it does sound a little bit similar to the Voldemort story in some ways. I mean, where it's like...
Yeah, I can see the comparison, sure.
Yeah, I mean, not entirely, but it's like, yeah, the being abandoned as a kid, having trauma as a kid, having to make your own way as a kid, and, wanting things to go into control, like finding a way to control your environment that's just been torn away from you, the home that you've been torn out of.
So yeah. It's like, yes, you're a victim, he's a victim, yes, he's a product, but at the same time, he's a free man, able to make his own decisions, and it's not like he doesn't know what he's doing. He knows what he's doing, and he's willing to make, the sacrifice of having to, kill these people in order to achieve what he feels are.
Well,
whereas my character is actually tortured. And as part of how she's brought up and things like that. She's a victim. I'm not. It's not just circumstance. She's an actual victim. Does she then go ahead and make bad decisions? Yes.
So she's like tortured and like brainwashed into believing these things?
Yes. Yes. Almost all of the children from the different clans get tortured in different ways.
And sometimes it's just really fun to break a character like that.
Yeah, and so yeah, there are definitely characters who are broken, very horribly broken in this novel.
And I'm working on currently. There's nobody who's been in that kind of situation, but other future novels, I definitely have some characters that I'm going to break them pretty good. And with my villain, he's not a victim at all. I mean, privileged lifestyle, wasn't abused as a child. Although I was talking in the very, very beginning about how originally he was kind of a black box, and I've kind of fleshed him out doing my second rewrite. And so part of the motivation that's not going to come through obvious, it's one of those below the tip of the iceberg type things, is that I had to come up with a believable motivation for why he's on the mission in the first place when he doesn't agree with the fact that this program exists. And that goes back to his niece and how, she is kind of rejecting her family legacy and wanting to go another path, that his sister, her mother, has kind of dispatched him on, well, my daughter is going on this mission, I can't stop her, so guess what? You get to be the government representative. I'm going to pull strings and make sure it happens, and you go watch my daughter and bring her back into the fold and get rid of all this, Earth visiting craziness. So, and his sister is powerful. Like they're both very wealthy, very powerful. And so he does it partly out of family honor type stuff, but also because, he kind of knows in the back of his mind that if his sister wanted to ruin him, she could do some damage. So it's not total victimization, but yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But mostly he just becomes increasingly amoral. I guess he gets away from his society and kind of likes power a little too much and starts thinking he's invincible.
Yeah, I was going to say something about how the character responds to the environment or responds to the things that's happening. And in my Torth series, a lot of the Torth respond to their environment and their society by becoming addicted to drugs and committing suicide. And the vast majority of Torth don't respond well to the upbringing they've had. Most of them they might not respond that way, but a lot of them kind of mentally check out. They become very apathetic, and they just kind of spend the rest of their lives doing nothing at all, or as little, as close to nothing as possible. They're basically I don't know. They're basically drug addicts, I would have to say. I mean, they're not on drugs, but they're the equivalent of it. The bad guys in my series are the ones that are no, I'm not going to just sit here and do nothing. I'm going to take over the universe. Anyway, I mean, I guess it's kind of like they've all had the same upbringing. They've all had the same traumas going on, but one person might respond to being like abused horribly as a child by mentally checking out and committing suicide. And somebody else might respond by trying to control their environment and control the people around them. And I guess those are the kind of villain personalities I'm attracted to. But yeah, I mean, as Lee knows, like, I have one hero character that switches sides. He becomes a villain, he becomes a hero. And he responds to the Torth society by mentally checking out. If he was to remain a Torth, he would have killed himself. So he doesn't respond the same way that these villain characters do.